Hello, Arem Nahariim-Samadhi for our presentation that will be posted for March 19, 2012 at Lotus of the Heart with the vision, Living in Love Beyond Beliefs. This also is posted at YouTube at JesusSpirituality, a non-religious, interfaith, interspiritual look into the teaching, stories, and tradition around Jesus for all persons, looking for the wisdom and inspiration there. Today, I'll talk about a seed. A seed. Jesus was much more like a Zen teacher than many persons would realize. He would often tell stories and would not give an answer. So he offered, that was good communication. It was a way he was inviting us to look at the story in different ways. Doesn't mean the story can mean anything we want it to mean. We need to be true to the story, yes. But let's practice this today, because he gave a story that seems so simple, a couple of parables, but at the same time, we could say, what's he really saying, or what is it saying to me? And we might not all agree, or it could be a little nebulous. So that's part of the simplicity of it. It leads us to ask the question, what is he saying about a seed? So, back to back in the Gospel of Mark, possibly the earliest Gospel, there's a record of Jesus telling a story about, or a parable, an analogy about a seed. He says this guy goes out, he plants his seed. So he, day in, day and night, he goes through his routine. He's not worried about the seed at all. He's not paying any attention to the seed. What happens to the seed? The seed draws off the nutrients of the environment, sprouts a stalk, a tendril, and then a stalk, and then a head of grain, and the guy says, okay, it's harvest time. So he gets his sickle to go harvest. What has he done? He planted the seed. That's it. Jesus used the language of empire and kingdom. That was the world he lived in. So he was speaking to people with that language. That's why he spoke of kingdom of heaven, kingdom of God. So he said, this is what the kingdom of God is like. Now, some people might be there listening to him saying, just tell us. And he could say, I just told you. I just told you about us. I told you a parable. I told you a story. Think about it. And then next, another analogy, parable of a seed. Says the kingdom of God, the kingdom of heaven, this empire, this power I'm talking about, this presence is like planting the smallest seed, a mustard seed, tiny seed. And of herbs or plants, it becomes the largest, so large that the birds come and make nest in it. But it just started out, this small, tiny seed. The smallest seed becomes the biggest herb plant. So again, the people could be saying, what in the world is he saying? What does that have to do with the kingdom of God? A herb plant, a plant where birds nest, build nest, and have little birds. So he's asking us to consider a spiritual reality. The text is calling us, the story, the parable, the analogy is calling us into this, to explore something together. So I'm going to give you some thoughts as I have thought upon this, as it's spoken to me. Maybe this will help you. But I encourage you to think about this on your own. Again, we could ask the question, what is this kingdom of God? So he's using, again, as I said, the language of an empire. So it has something to do with this power. That's part of the strength of the language, but part of the weakness, because we associate likely kingdom empires with despots, dictators. I mean, how many of us get invited to see the leader of our country, for instance? So, but he used that kind of language actually to usurp the socialized understanding of it. In essence, he's saying in his teachings, I'm talking to you about a power that is so unlike the power that you usually associate with government, politics, and religion. Because in many ways, the church took upon itself the form of the Roman Empire. See, I mean, the Pope, in a sense, in the church, as the representative of God for the people, is much like the Roman emperor was the representative of, say, Zeus, or the Roman gods, Greco-Roman gods for the people. Even some apparently claiming to be the embodiment of that. So there's some parallels there that I think that the church, institutional church, made a mistake, and so I think we're still living with that because we missed really what Jesus was trying to talk about empire. So in a way, the church created its own empire, see, and took over countries, lands, forced conversions, things that's not the power that Jesus talked about. So we're still paying for that. The church is, and its loss of reputation as people look back on the history of what has happened. What if we had understood a little what Jesus is saying here? So what about the seed? And it's going to contrast with what we think of as power often again, and how to manage life, because it's not about managing life or anything like that at all. It's going to usurp our understanding of our world and how to be in it if we're not in alignment with this wisdom. Power. That's seed. Think about that. That guy's going in, out daily, doing his chores, whatever, and he planted this seed. This seed becomes a harvest. Same thing with the mustard seed. That is very powerful. All the potency and potential of the harvest is in that seed. So power, secrecy. The seed is simply doing what it does naturally. That's another concept here. Power, secrecy. It's quietly going about doing what it does. No one's having to ask it. It's not having to call attention to itself. It's simply being itself. It is acting in agreement with its nature, therefore it is natural. Now, also it has an environment that's supporting that. I came up on a farm. There's some soils, some land that's not good for planting. I mean, you might plant trees on them, but it might not be a land for something else. Or you might graze cattle on it, but you wouldn't plant your garden on it. Also, land can just get tired from overuse. But the seed is in an environment that is supporting its potency, potential, its secretive working, its natural expression of itself. Isn't this a lot like the spiritual life? It is powerful, by the way. And its power is most manifested when we are cooperating with it and not interfering by trying to be, see, putting forth effortful willfulness into being spiritual, being a good person. See. that has a secretive way of working. The presence, the sacredness, both within us, outside of us, has a powerful way of working secretly and naturally. So you don't have to call attention to yourself. You don't have to be effortful about any of this. But you do need, we could say, the story at least invites me to consider that idea of environment. If you're not, like you say, if I'm going to a place to worship, but that place to worship, though I like the people and I've been there for years, but it's not supporting my spiritual growth, it's not nurturing me, I'd say leave. See, leave. Your purpose in this world and your relationship with Spirit is more important than your association with a particular group or an institution. Your relationship is with this working that Jesus spoke of as kingdom of God, kingdom of heaven. It's a spiritual reality, and yes, it does manifest materially, and we don't have to get into this, is the kingdom within you or outside of you. The language in the Gospels can be read either way. The kingdom is within you. That same word means among you. It's both, or it's neither. It simply is. So trust the power of this, however you understand it. It is very powerful. If you will cooperate with it, don't get in the way. Don't work at it. Work with it. In a sense, you're part of the environment, see. So live in a way, think in a way that would cooperate with what the Spirit is doing within you. Don't make a show about it. Let it be. Let it secretly work within you. Don't unnecessarily call attention to it. It's working, and don't think you have to understand how it's working. It's a mystery. It's a secret. Your mind cannot process it. Don't try to. It's natural. It's totally natural. Don't think it's got to be that spirituality or even being devoutly religious has to be other than your life and as natural as eating, sleeping, smiling, laughing, things like that. See, walking. It's that natural. And provide yourself a daily environment to practice through your prayers, meditations, chants, yoga, whatever these things are that you do. That's part of your cooperation with it. Be gentle in that process. And yes, you do need you need a community to support you. That's part of your environment. You need at least one close friend that you can share with openly about this. That's part of your environment. You may need a spiritual guide, a spiritual director also. So look at this story yourself and ask yourself, what does it mean to you? And I hope that something I've said has been an inspiration today for you from whatever perspective you're coming from. Thank you.